June 30th, 2017. Death Valley Starfall. I'm a bowler, and a relatively good one at that. But it's a hard thing to admit because the game doesn't have the cachet it had in the 60s and 70s when I was a kid. Saturday afternoons on Channel 7 WABC, I studied the legends, Earl Anthony, Dick Weber, Johnny Petraglia, and the upstarts who threw the ball hard and made it hook even harder. I knew that each week's edition of the Pro Bowlers Tour had been settled when Jim McKay announced the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat to introduce ABC's wide world of sports. But the game has changed. I wonder where Earl and Jim are now. No doubt, relaxing at a fancy desert resort, paying for their stay with television sponsorship earnings or tournament prize money from Firestone, Ebonite, or Barbasol. Because I'm a bowler? I bowl. Not surprising, I'm sure, but in order to get a good game these days I sometimes go out of my way. Yes, I've been known to carry 50 pounds of bowling equipment on a business trip. Yes, I've paid a year's sanction fee to join a league for one night on the outskirts of Lincoln, Nebraska. Yes, I've bowled as a pacer in the suburbs of Denver and been a sub in Boston. Yes, I've paid the princely sum of $8 per game to bowl in the middle of the afternoon in Manhattan. It's not a mania, I assure you. It's a distraction, an opportunity to be challenged, and even sometimes an opportunity to show off. I claim to be good. Credentials please, right? Okay then, I've scored 300, a perfect game, 13 times, 8 of which were sanctioned, one of which was in the Pennsylvania State Championships, and my last one was just about a month ago. I've scored over 800 for a series, 3 games, twice, one of which was sanctioned and the other was a house record score. I've got the rings and plaques and trophies in case you're interested. I've cashed in the national tournament placing 268th out of about 10,000 bowlers, maybe more. The tournament doesn't show the number of entries on their website. And yes, I do declare that I am the only person that I've ever heard of that has an online Google map with meticulously placed electronic pins that indicate every bowling center that I've ever knocked down one or more pins. If you don't believe me or are politely interested, I'll send you the link. I've even participated in so-called underground bowling, and been a member of an underground bowling association franchise. Ask me about Malachi sometime, and I'll tell you about the UBA's attempt to legitimize this brand of high-stakes and sometimes after-hours competition. All I can say about the state of affairs here, as with many more well-established and well-regarded institutions, is follow the money. Ultimately, bowling underground violates my sensibility for the purity of the game, because mastery is all I seek. If your mastery is greater than mine, so be it, I lose, and if my mastery is greater than yours, I win. There's no thrill in my victory or agony in my defeat, and most importantly there are no eliminator cuts, bracket action, or franchise owner side bets to settle afterwards. Annually, the National Open Championships are the most anticipated and historically venerated competition in the universe of amateur bowling. I have made the trip several times throughout my career. As the public interest in bowling has declined, the tournament has had its challenges living up to its reputation, and as a result things have changed. Characters who are not of the ilk of the bowling legends have come to own the game, and as a result the tournament has in the eyes of many become more about the owners of the championships than it is about the bowlers. This year's Nationals was, as expected, a challenge. The lanes were brutal. Everyone on my team struggled. More than I'd like to admit, even the most basic spare-making opportunities proved to be elusive. As our opportunity for bowling glory slipped off our fingers and into the proverbial and in all too many cases literal gutter, I instinctively shifted my thinking to other pursuits to alleviate the pain. I wanted to get away from this place and the missed opportunity that it represented. I needed to recenter. I knew the answer. With our late evening campaign finally concluded, I said my good evenings and quietly slipped away to take a late-night drive to Badwater Basin in Death Valley National Park for the sole purpose of sitting in total darkness and gazing into the night sky. It had been at least 5 years since I'd created the opportunity to escape the light pollution of any populated area to marvel at the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy with my naked eye. I needed to reinvigorate my spirit by experiencing the wonder of the universe in a way that I could not at home or in this strange city. When I departed the tournament site, it was already well after midnight. Dodging the occasional nocturnal jackrabbit, I plunged into the darkness. Several times during the 2.5 hours it took to drive across the desert, I considered cutting the trip short due to the dangerous and persistent need for sleep. I mused to myself, one of those rabbits is going to get me sooner or later. As I pressed on, I internally debated, surely it's as dark in this place as it is in Death Valley. What's the difference if stop here or there? Ultimately, my desire to achieve the goal was stronger than my need to succumb to biological and psychological imperatives that were at work in my mind. Rejecting fatigue, I relied upon the pushy voice of my cell phone GPS co-pilot to help me endure. I arrived in the Badwater Visitors Area parking lot at 3:02 a.m. To my mild surprise and annoyance, there was an early model, metallic blue, Toyota pickup truck parked in the middle of the lot facing the center of the basin. I thought to myself, was it just broken down and left to be recovered in the morning? Was it another stargazer parked to enjoy the darkness? Or was it something more dangerous, perhaps a deranged psychopath out to waylay unwary tourists? I quickly considered continuing on to find another area within the valley where solitude would be guaranteed and to avoid a potential encounter with the owner of the menacing vehicle. Though very tired, I quickly reframed the scene in my mind, dismissing horror movie scenarios and minimizing this blemish on my experience as meaningless. I parked my modest rental, 10 spots to the south of the pickup, turned off the headlights, opened the door, and swung out into the warm night air. I gently closed the door and turned my eyes skyward to look upon the deep. As if triggered by the extinguishment of vehicle dome light, a yellow-white streak that extended from my zenith to the northeast corner of the valley sky winked into and out of existence. A shooting star. How wonderful. I reflected upon my good fortune and wondered if this was just an isolated event or if our planet was in the midst of a regularly scheduled meteor shower. If it were a shower, there most certainly would be more shortly, but alas, in the 30 minutes I studied and marveled at the firmament, no other bits of falling star manifested for my pleasure. In the warm breeze of the night desert, the sky was beautiful and timeless. The sense of awe that I sought was readily achieved in those moments. As I drove back to the city of sin, I reflected upon my good fortune, having been able to enjoy the solitary one that chose to pierce the darkness and welcome me to the valley of death. Once back in town, I made no bets and desired to take no chances, because I had already won more than money could buy. The only thing that was lacking was someone with whom to share the experience.